The evening sky over Earth was calm. Across cities and villages, people went about their usual lives, unaware that history was about to change. Children played in parks, workers hurried home, families gathered for dinner. The world seemed peaceful, but far above, in the darkness of space, something vast was moving closer. At first, astronomers noticed unusual signals. Large objects were approaching at great speed, far too organized to be natural. The signals grew clearer, and then the objects became visible through telescopes. They were not meteors or satellites. They were ships. Giant, silver vessels shaped like blades of light, moving in perfect formation. Humanity had always wondered if it was alone in the universe. That night, the answer came in the most dramatic way possible. As the alien fleet entered Earth's orbit, the skies lit up with streaks of fire. Massive craft hovered above continents, casting shadows over entire cities. Panic spread quickly. People ran into the streets, pointing at the glowing shapes that filled the heavens. News channels broadcast the same images again and again, enormous vessels hanging silently in the sky, as if the world had been conquered already. The alien fleet called itself the Vorkai. They were known across distant stars as ruthless conquerors, and they believed Earth would be no different from the other worlds they had subdued. To the Vorkai, humans were an undeveloped race, divided by borders and politics, easy to control. They saw Earth as a planet rich in resources, with billions of people who could serve their empire. For them, this was not a question of war. It was a question of ownership. The first direct contact came not through diplomacy but through dominance. A beam of light stretched down from the lead ship, and a voice echoed across all channels, translated into every language. The message was cold and commanding. It ordered humanity to surrender its governments, armies, and resources to the Vorkai Empire. It promised that compliance would allow survival, while refusal would bring destruction. The words were broadcast into homes, schools, and military bases. The world listened in silence. In that moment, leaders across the earth faced the same choice. Some thought of negotiation, hoping to avoid disaster. Others knew instinctively that surrender was not an option. Humanity had faced wars, disasters, and endless struggles across history. It had never been united under one flag, but now, the presence of a common enemy forced a new kind of awareness. The Vorkai believed humans would bend easily, but the reality was far different. Deep inside, a stubborn fire burned in the hearts of people everywhere. Crowds gathered in city squares, staring at the sky. Some were afraid, some were angry, and some simply refused to believe what they were seeing. In small towns, neighbors held meetings and whispered about what this meant. In great capitals, generals and scientists were already drawing plans, connecting through secure channels, and asking the most urgent question: how do you fight a power that comes from the stars? The Vorkai gave no time for reflection. To prove their power, they unleashed a demonstration strike. From one of the smaller ships, a beam of light shot downward, hitting the ocean with explosive force. A massive column of water rose into the air, and shock waves spread for miles. No city was harmed in that first strike, but the message was unmistakable. They could destroy anything, anywhere, at any time. It was meant to terrify. It was meant to break human courage before the real battle began. Yet the effect was not what the Vorkai expected. Across the world, the sight of alien power did not bring surrender. Instead, it stirred something older and deeper in humanity. In shelters and homes, people began to speak with a new kind of resolve. They had been tested before by history, and though the challenge now came from the stars, the instinct to resist was strong. Humanity was afraid, but it was not broken. In one hidden command center, scientists examined recordings of the alien vessels. They analyzed energy readings, flight patterns, and structural designs. Military officers leaned over their shoulders, asking for every detail. Every scrap of information became valuable. It was not a question of if they could win, but how long they could hold out. Plans formed in whispers. Old defenses were brought online. Satellites were reprogrammed. Every tool humanity had was being prepared. As the night deepened, the alien ships hovered silently above. To the Vorkai, this was the beginning of another simple conquest. To humanity, it was the start of the greatest test it had ever faced. The world held its breath, waiting for the next move. But beneath the fear, something powerful was taking shape. Across every land and every language, people began to share the same thought. Earth was not going to kneel. Earth was going to fight. The next morning, the alien fleet remained above Earth. Their silver ships hovered in silence, shining in the light of the sun. The world had not seen sleep that night. Cities stayed awake with fear, their skies glowing with alien shadows. Every screen, every radio, every broadcast waited for the next words from the invaders. It came without delay. The largest ship moved lower, as if to remind humanity of its helplessness. From its core, a bright circle opened, and the voice of the Vorkai commander filled the airwaves again. His tone was cold, his words sharp, and his message direct. You will serve. Your armies will stand down. Your resources belong to us. You will not resist. The command was simple. The Vorkai did not offer discussion. They believed no negotiation was needed. For them, Earth was already theirs. In government halls across the world, leaders listened in silence. Some felt the heavy weight of fear. Others clenched their fists in anger. The demand was an insult, not just to nations but to the idea of human freedom itself. Some leaders whispered about surrender, hoping to save lives. But most understood the truth. The Vorkai did not want peace. They wanted control. Ordinary people heard the same message. In villages, farmers turned their eyes to the skies and shook their heads. In crowded cities, workers and students looked at one another and felt the same stubborn thought. This was not acceptable. Humanity had never been perfect, but it had never bowed so easily. The Vorkai commander, Zoran, watched from orbit. He believed the humans were already broken. To him, Earth was no more difficult than the weak planets he had crushed before. He did not see unity. He saw division. He saw borders and disagreements and imagined this would make conquest easy. He did not yet understand what made humans different. In a secure base hidden under mountains, a meeting took place. Generals, scientists, and leaders sat around a long table. The room buzzed with tension. A large screen showed the alien fleet, its numbers vast and terrifying. One general spoke first. Their weapons are beyond anything we know. If we fight them directly, we cannot win. A scientist answered with quiet determination. Maybe we cannot match their weapons, but we can adapt. We can learn. That is what humans do. The room fell silent as the words sank in. Humanity had faced countless threats before. Floods, famine, disease, and wars. Every time, humans had found a way to survive. Perhaps this would be no different. Plans began to form. Satellites would be reprogrammed to track the alien ships. Old rockets would be pulled from storage and refitted. Communication networks would be strengthened to keep the world connected. Every nation was asked to share information, weapons, and manpower. It was no longer about one flag or one people. It was about survival of the entire species. Outside the base, ordinary citizens also prepared. In coastal towns, fishermen secured their boats and sharpened tools. In mountain villages, farmers stored supplies. In cities, volunteers lined up to give blood, to work in hospitals, or to join defense groups. Humanity was not only waiting for leaders. It was preparing itself. The Vorakai did not notice. They believed fear would grow stronger with every passing hour. To test this, they sent smaller ships into the skies above major cities. The ships hovered low, shining bright lights over buildings and streets. The sight was meant to frighten. But instead, many people stared back with defiance. They refused to run. Children pointed at the ships, and their parents pulled them close, whispering promises of safety. In one city, a group of young engineers gathered on a rooftop, watching a ship move slowly across the sky. One of them said quietly, "If we can bring one down, we can learn from it." The others nodded. Even in fear, their minds turned to solutions. Back in orbit, Zoran grew impatient. The humans had not responded with surrender. He wondered if they were too stubborn to understand what was happening. He decided to give them one last chance. His voice thundered again across every channel. "You will obey. This is your final warning. Refuse, and you will know destruction." The words fell heavy across the world. Some wept. Some prayed. But many clenched their teeth and looked to the skies with anger. Humanity had been threatened countless times in its history. Now, the threat came from the stars, but the feeling was the same. It was not in human nature to kneel. In the mountain base, the scientists spoke again, louder this time. "They think we are weak. They do not know us. We must show them." The generals nodded. Plans moved forward faster. Orders were sent through hidden channels. Factories shifted their work overnight. Secret laboratories lit up with activity. The decision was made. Humanity would not yield. Humanity would resist. Above the world, the Vorakai ships continued to shine, certain of their coming victory. But below, in every heart, a flame of resistance burned brighter. The demand had been given. The answer would not be surrender. It would be defiance. The day after the Vorakai delivered their final warning, the world waited in uneasy silence. People stared at the skies, wondering when the attack would come. Streets were quieter than usual, yet the air was heavy with energy, as if the entire planet was holding its breath. At dawn, the first strike came. Over the Eastern Ocean, one of the alien ships moved into position. Its surface glowed with strange symbols, and from its underside a beam of searing light shot downward. The beam pierced the waters and exploded with terrible force. Waves rose higher than any storm. The ocean boiled as if the very planet had been wounded. Minutes later, another strike came, this time near the edge of a desert. The ground cracked, and sand turned to glass. The Vorakai were not aiming at cities yet. These attacks were warnings. They wanted to show their power, to frighten the people into surrender before true destruction began. But the result was not what they expected. Around the world, anger grew stronger than fear. People saw the devastation and realized the aliens would never be satisfied with submission. The choice was clear: fight or vanish. In the hidden mountain base, leaders studied the attacks. A large screen showed the beam strikes again and again, analyzed by scientists. Energy readings filled the air with numbers and graphs. A young scientist pointed at the data. Their weapons use focused plasma. It is powerful but leaves traces. If we can track those traces, we can find weaknesses. A general leaned forward. Then we must act now. The people need hope. The first counter-move began. Across several nations, rockets that had been sleeping in silos for years were prepared once again. Engineers worked without rest, modifying them with new guidance systems and experimental warheads. Old machines became the tools of survival. In one launch site, a team of workers stood around a tall missile as it was fueled. The commander of the site, a woman named Rena, raised her voice. "We are not fighting for one land. We are fighting for Earth. Remember that when this missile rises." The workers cheered, not out of joy but out of determination. Meanwhile, smaller teams of pilots prepared aircraft for daring missions. Fighter jets were loaded with advanced electronics to confuse alien sensors. Helicopters carried modified explosives. Even drones were repurposed as weapons. Humanity's strength was not in superior technology but in creativity and adaptability. The first true battle came that night. Over a large coastal city, one of the Vorakai ships lowered itself, shining a blinding light over the buildings below. The intention was to frighten the people into silence. But hidden on the outskirts, a missile launcher was waiting. Engineers had calculated the alien flight path, and soldiers stood ready to fire. The command was given. The missile roared into the sky, leaving a trail of fire behind it. People in the city looked up, their hearts racing. For the first time since the invasion began, something human was rising against the alien shadow. The missile struck the ship's shield, and the explosion lit the night. For a moment, the ship remained untouched. But then a ripple spread across its surface, and the shield flickered. Sparks burst from the alien hull. The people below shouted with excitement, realizing the invaders were not invincible. The Vorakai commander Zoran watched from orbit. His eyes narrowed. This was unexpected. No other world had pierced his fleet's defenses so quickly. He ordered a counterattack. The damaged ship released drones shaped like sharp arrows, each one humming with energy. They darted toward the city, aiming to punish those who dared to resist. But humanity was ready. Fighter jets scrambled into the air, weaving between the buildings and heading straight toward the drones. In the first clash, human pilots unleashed flares and electronic bursts. Several drones lost control and crashed into the ocean. Others were destroyed by precise gunfire. The skies above the city became a storm of light and fire. On the ground, people who once hid in fear now watched with hope. They saw their defenders striking back. They saw alien machines fall from the sky. For the first time, the invaders looked less like gods and more like enemies who could bleed. The damaged Vorakai ship tried to retreat higher into the sky. But another missile was already on its way. This time, it struck the weakened section of the hull. A massive explosion tore across the alien vessel. Flames and debris rained down as the ship broke apart. The sound of its destruction echoed across the sea. Cheers erupted from the city below. Around the world, the news spread faster than fire. A Vorakai ship had been destroyed. Humanity had struck back. In the mountain base, the leaders allowed themselves a brief moment of relief. But they knew the battle was only beginning. A general spoke calmly. "This is not victory. This is only the first spark. The real war starts now." Zoran, watching the wreckage of his fallen ship, felt the first sting of frustration. He had thought Earth would be easy to take. Instead, he saw a race that learned quickly, fought fiercely, and refused to surrender. For the first time in his campaigns across the stars, he began to feel uncertainty. The first strike had been made. But it was not the aliens who had delivered the final message. It was humanity, and their message was clear. Earth would not kneel. The wreck of the fallen alien ship still burned in the ocean when scientists and soldiers rushed to study it. Helicopters hovered above the waves. Boats carried divers and engineers toward the smoking debris. The Vorakai had lost their first vessel, and humanity knew this was a rare chance to learn. Every piece of broken metal, every fragment of machinery, was precious. Teams in protective suits pulled glowing shards from the water. The materials were unlike anything seen before. Some were sharp as glass but lighter than air. Others pulsed with faint blue energy, as if alive. Crates of alien parts were loaded onto trucks and flown to hidden research bases. Humanity was not only fighting but learning. In one laboratory deep underground, a group of engineers worked day and night. They placed a broken alien drone on a table, its body cracked but still humming faintly. One scientist touched the metal carefully and whispered, "This is the future, if we can understand it." They began to pull it apart, studying its circuits and energy cores. Soon they discovered something unexpected. The alien machines used energy fields that were powerful but unstable. With the right frequency, those fields could be disrupted. A small discovery, but enough to build a plan. News of the breakthrough spread quickly to military leaders. A general listened to the scientists and said, "If their shields can be disrupted, then their ships can fall. We must share this knowledge with every nation. The world must fight as one." For the first time in history, borders mattered less. Leaders who had once been rivals now sat together through secure channels, exchanging data and strategies. Engineers from different lands worked on the same designs. Soldiers trained side by side, learning to fight as a single force. Humanity was changing. The threat from the stars had turned a divided planet into a united front. Ordinary people also joined the effort. In factories, workers stopped building cars and started building parts for weapons. In universities, students wrote codes to confuse alien sensors. In small towns, volunteers gathered supplies for soldiers and hospitals. Humanity's strength was not only in its armies but in the unity of its people. The Vorakai did not understand this. From their orbiting ships, they saw humans gathering strange weapons and moving armies, but they dismissed it as desperation. To Zoran, the commander, Earth still looked weak. He spoke to his officers. "They waste time trying to copy what they cannot understand. We will crush them before their efforts matter." Yet his officers were uneasy. They had never seen a world destroy one of their ships so quickly. They whispered to each other in private, wondering if these humans were different from the easy prey they had conquered before. On Earth, the new weapons began to appear. Rockets fitted with alien fragments gained stronger impact. Small devices that disrupted energy shields were placed on drones and aircraft. Tanks were upgraded with scavenged plating from Vorakai wreckage, giving them resistance against plasma fire. Humanity was turning the enemy's power into its own. The first test came over the mountains. A Vorakai ship appeared, sending drones to scan the valleys below. But waiting for them was a hidden strike team armed with the new devices. The drones swooped low, their lights searching the ground, when suddenly their sensors failed. The new human code filled their systems with noise. The drones spun out of control, crashing into the cliffs. Cheers filled the hidden base. The technology worked. humanity had found a way to blind the enemy. That same night, aircraft carrying modified rockets flew low across the sea. They targeted another alien ship, its shield glowing faintly. The pilots launched their weapons, and the rockets struck. This time, the shield flickered and collapsed completely. Explosions ripped across the alien hull, and the ship began to fall. A second victory was claimed. Around the world, the news spread like fire. Humanity was not only resisting but winning small battles. For the first time, the idea of survival felt possible. People gathered in streets, waving flags, holding hands, and shouting to the skies. They were no longer only afraid. They were proud. But Zoran did not see it that way. From his command ship, he watched two of his vessels fall and clenched his hands in frustration. He had thought Earth would surrender quickly. Instead, the humans grew stronger with every battle. He gave a new order to his fleet. No more warnings. No more small strikes. We will break them completely. The skies above Earth darkened as the Vorokai fleet began to regroup. Dozens of ships moved into formation, preparing for a larger assault. The invasion was no longer about intimidation. It was about survival for the Vorokai as much as for humanity. On Earth, the leaders received reports of the enemy movement. In the mountain base, the general looked around the room and said, "They are coming with full force. This is the turning point. We must be ready." The scientist who had studied the alien drone spoke again. "They believe power alone wins wars. They do not understand us. Every time they strike, we learn. Every time they destroy, we rebuild stronger. That is what it means to be human." The room fell silent as those words settled in. Outside, soldiers trained, engineers worked, and families prepared. Humanity had chosen its path. There would be no surrender. The counter had begun, and the world would fight until the very end. The Vorokai fleet spread across the skies like a storm. Dozens of ships moved into position, casting shadows over continents. Their commander Zoran wanted to end the resistance in one sweeping strike. He ordered his forces to attack cities, military bases, and communication hubs all at once. The plan was simple: overwhelm humanity so quickly that no counterattack could form. The first targets were major cities. Above one coastal capital, two alien ships descended, filling the sky with blinding light. They released swarms of drones, sharp-winged machines that flew in perfect patterns. Their plasma weapons scorched the streets below, melting concrete and steel. People ran for cover as the invasion moved closer to the heart of the city. But this time, the humans were ready. Soldiers and civilians worked side by side, guiding families into shelters while defense teams activated hidden traps. On rooftops, small launchers fired coded bursts into the air. The signals confused the alien drones, causing them to spin and crash into buildings. Fighters scrambled from a nearby base, swooping low to lure the swarms into tight alleys where their numbers worked against them. Explosions lit the night as drone after drone fell. In another battle far from the coast, the Vorokai targeted mountain strongholds. Their ships unleashed beams of energy, carving into the cliffs. Yet the humans had prepared tunnels and ambush points. As the alien forces advanced, the mountains seemed to fight back. Old artillery pieces hidden in caves opened fire. Modified rockets streaked upward, tearing through weak points in alien shields. Smoke and fire filled the valleys, but still the humans held. Everywhere the Vorokai attacked, they met resistance stronger than expected. In deserts, armored vehicles moved swiftly across the sands, striking and disappearing before the enemy could respond. In forests, small squads used the trees as cover, striking drones with guided rifles. In the skies, pilots worked in pairs and trios, using speed and teamwork to outmaneuver larger alien machines. Zoran watched these reports with growing frustration. No other world had fought like this. Usually, a first strike ended all hope. But these humans did not break. Every time they lost ground, they adapted. Every time they faced destruction, they invented new ways to survive. One of his officers dared to speak. "Commander, they are learning faster than expected. If this continues, they may." Zoran silenced him with a glare. "No. They are fragile. They only delay the inevitable." But even as he spoke, doubt crept into his thoughts. In the mountain base, the human leaders studied maps glowing with red and blue marks. Red showed alien positions. Blue showed human defenses. At first, the maps looked hopeless, with red spreading across the screen. But slowly, as battles continued, patches of blue began to appear where humans had pushed back. A general pointed to one such area. "They expected us to fight head-on. Instead, we fight like water, flowing around their strength and striking their weakness." The scientist who had studied the alien wrecks added, "They rely on patterns. Their drones move like machines, predictable and precise. But humans think differently. We are unpredictable. That is our strength." The turning point came during a battle over the plains. The Vorokai sent a massive ship, larger than any before, to crush the defenders. Its shield glowed bright, daring the humans to try their new weapons. But the defenders had a different plan. Instead of aiming directly at the ship, they launched waves of smaller drones carrying shield disruptors. The human drones darted in every direction, distracting the larger vessel. The Vorokai fired beam after beam, destroying many, but more kept coming. Each one left a small mark on the shield, weakening it little by little. At the same time, human tanks and artillery launched a coordinated strike from the ground. Pilots dropped bombs modified with alien fragments. The sky turned into a storm of fire and smoke. Finally, the massive ship's shield flickered, then collapsed. A final missile soared upward, striking the core of the vessel. The explosion lit the plains like a second sun. The humans erupted in cheers. Another giant had fallen. Soldiers hugged one another, and even civilians watching from far away shouted in triumph. The news spread quickly. Humanity had faced one of the strongest alien ships and destroyed it. In orbit, Zoran stared at the wreckage on his display. His officers remained silent, afraid to speak. For the first time, the great commander felt fear. Not fear of losing a battle, but fear of losing the war. On Earth, the victory gave new energy to the resistance. Factories worked without pause, building more drones, more missiles, more shield disruptors. Scientists shared discoveries faster than ever before. Pilots trained harder, soldiers dug deeper defenses, and families prepared to endure the struggle ahead. The human spirit was no longer only about survival. It was about victory. As the sun set over the battered cities, a quiet determination filled the air. Humanity had been underestimated. The turning point had come, and the world was no longer the prey of the Vorokai. It was a force rising against them. The battle for Earth was far from over, but the message was clear. Humanity had shown the truth of its nature, adaptable, united, and unwilling to surrender. The galaxy's conquerors had finally met their match. The skies above Earth were dark with alien ships. The Vorakai had gathered every vessel they could spare. Hundreds of silver giants hovered in formation, their shadows stretching over continents. Commander Zoran had decided it was time to end the resistance once and for all. He ordered the fleet to strike simultaneously across every major city, every military base, and every key supply line. The goal was complete annihilation. Below, humans watched the dark shapes with grim determination. For weeks, humanity had adapted, fought, and learned. Now the world would face the most terrifying assault in its history. Soldiers tightened their grips on weapons. Pilots checked their aircraft. Engineers loaded every device and missile that had been created from alien fragments. Families prepared shelters and safe zones, ready to endure the chaos. The first attack came over the northern cities. Vorakai beams struck the streets, melting roads, and shattering buildings. Drones swarmed, aiming to destroy anything in their path. Citizens ran to underground shelters, following the plans humanity had perfected over weeks. From the shadows, human drones darted upward, carrying shield disruptors that caused the alien machines to falter. In the mountains, tanks and artillery waited. They fired modified rockets that pierced shields and exploded on impact. Pilots swooped low, diving between buildings and hills, confusing alien sensors. In the deserts, small squads used camouflage to hide from the Vorakai's sensors, striking with missiles and disappearing before retaliation could come. Every region of Earth became a battlefield, and every human became a part of the fight. Zoran grew frustrated. His fleet, once invincible, now faced constant losses. He ordered the largest ships to descend closer to Earth, hoping their size and firepower would crush the defenses. But the humans had prepared for this. They had built networks of sensors, traps, and drones to guide every attack. They had adapted every weapon to exploit weaknesses in the alien shields. In one city, the Vorakai tried to strike with a massive energy beam. It aimed to destroy the city center. Engineers had predicted this move. Hidden devices disrupted the beam, causing it to scatter before it could do major damage. Human fighters launched missiles, hitting the alien ship where the shield had weakened. Sparks flew as the vessel shuddered, then began to fall. The people in the city watched as the massive ship crashed outside the urban area, sending a plume of fire into the sky. Across the world, similar events unfolded. In forests, drones confused and destroyed alien sensors. In plains, human tanks moved like a single organism, striking and retreating. In the oceans, modified submarines launched attacks on hovering ships. Humanity had transformed every piece of technology and knowledge into a weapon of survival. For the first time, Zoran realized he had underestimated the humans. They were not a weak species to be crushed with fear and force. They were unpredictable, clever, and united. His fleet, once confident of victory, now struggled to survive each attack. Ships fell from the sky, drones were destroyed in swarms, and energy beams failed to strike intended targets. On Earth, the leaders coordinated through secure networks. Nations that had once been rivals now shared every strategy and every resource. Engineers built new devices based on alien fragments, scientists developed faster ways to detect enemy movement, and pilots communicated with civilians to avoid unnecessary casualties. The unity of the human race had become its greatest weapon. The largest battle took place over the central continent. Hundreds of ships tried to crush the defenders at once. The sky burned with explosions as humans launched every weapon available. Drones distracted, missiles struck weak points, and fighters performed daring maneuvers. On the ground, artillery fired in perfect coordination. The alien ships, powerful as they were, could not withstand the combination of strategy, courage, and innovation. Finally, Zoran ordered a retreat. His ships, battered and broken, pulled back from orbit. The humans had not only survived the last massive assault, they had destroyed much of the fleet. For the first time in the history of his campaigns, Zoran knew defeat was inevitable. On Earth, people emerged from shelters to witness the sky. The burning wrecks of Vorakai ships fell into oceans, forests, and deserts. Soldiers cheered. Scientists and engineers smiled in relief. Families hugged each other, feeling a victory that was more than survival, it was proof of their strength. The last stand of the Vorakai had failed. The humans had defended every corner of their planet. They had adapted faster than any enemy expected. They had turned fear into strategy, knowledge into power, and unity into victory. Humanity had proven that it was not a species to be conquered lightly. Zoran, aboard his command ship, looked down at the planet he had failed to conquer. He realized that humans were not weak, not fragile, and not predictable. They were a force of nature. And for the first time, he knew that the galaxy had underestimated a species that refused to surrender. The night sky above Earth burned with the wreckage of alien ships. Flames and smoke rose from oceans, forests, and deserts. Humanity had survived wave after wave of attacks, but now the final battle was at hand. The Vorakai had regrouped, determined to crush the human race once and for all. Their largest ships hovered in orbit, ready to unleash complete destruction. On the ground, human forces were ready. Soldiers, pilots, and engineers had prepared for months. Every weapon, drone, and missile was positioned. Every tactic had been studied and rehearsed. Humanity had learned from every strike, every attack, every moment of fear. They were ready. Commander Zoran issued the order to fire. Beams of energy shot down towards cities and military bases. Drones swarmed like silver locusts, striking with speed and precision. The humans watched, but this time, they did not panic. Years of preparation had taught them how to respond. Their drones moved faster, their missiles struck harder, and their tactics were unpredictable. In one city, a massive beam struck a bridge, but the humans had installed energy disruptors along its length. The beam faltered, scattered, and failed to destroy the bridge completely. Engineers guided drones to attack the alien drones, while fighter pilots swooped in to strike the larger ships. Explosions lit the night sky as the humans countered every move. In the mountains, hidden artillery fired with perfect timing. Tanks moved through valleys, striking enemy positions with accuracy. In forests, small teams lured Vorakai drones into traps, destroying them with modified weapons. Across deserts, humans used speed and cover to ambush alien patrols. Every corner of Earth became a battlefield, but humans had mastered it. Zoran watched his fleet fall apart. Ship after ship was destroyed. His drones were lost in waves, and energy beams failed against clever human defenses. He had underestimated the speed, intelligence, and unity of humanity. Every loss fueled his fear. Every failure reminded him that Earth was not like any other world he had conquered. On Earth, humans pushed forward. Pilots launched daring attacks, striking alien ships with modified missiles. Engineers used alien technology to create powerful new weapons. Soldiers coordinated ambushes and defensive lines in perfect harmony. The planet moved as one, united by determination and courage. The turning point came when the largest Vorakai ship moved into position above the central continent. Its shield glowed like a second sun. Zoran believed that destroying the capital of resistance would end the war. He unleashed every weapon the fleet possessed. Beams, drones, and missiles rained down in a display of raw power. The humans responded with unmatched strategy. Drones carrying shield disruptors targeted the ship. Missiles struck its weaker points. Pilots weaved through beams, striking in coordinated attacks. The massive ship shuddered as the shield flickered and collapsed. Human forces launched the final strike, hitting the core of the alien vessel. A massive explosion ripped across the sky, sending debris into orbit. The largest ship of the Vorikai was no more. Zoran's remaining vessels tried to retreat, but the humans pursued relentlessly. Each ship was tracked, each movement anticipated. Rockets and drones tore through the fleet. One by one, Vorikai ships fell from orbit, crashing into oceans, forests, and deserts. The alien forces had no escape. Humanity was everywhere, unstoppable and united. Finally, Zoran faced defeat. His command ship was surrounded, its weapons destroyed. The humans had turned every tactic, every device, and every weapon against him. He realized that Earth was not only defended but had become a trap for the invaders. With no fleet and no hope of reinforcement, Zoran had no choice but to surrender. On Earth, the celebrations were quiet at first, then grew louder. People emerged from shelters, watching the skies. The stars were filled with smoke and fire, the remnants of the fleet. Soldiers hugged each other, pilots cheered, engineers smiled. Humanity had done the impossible. They had faced an enemy that had conquered dozens of worlds and annihilated it. Leaders across the globe met in secure locations, knowing the fight was over. The planet was safe, but the victory was more than survival. It was a proof of human strength. Humanity had shown that intelligence, courage, creativity, and unity could defeat the greatest power in the galaxy. Zoran, the once proud commander of the Vorikai, understood the truth. Humans were not weak. They were not simple. They were relentless, adaptable, and united. Earth was no longer a planet to conquer, it was a symbol of the strength of its people. As dawn broke over the planet, the people looked at the horizon. The wreckage of the Vorikai fleet smoldered in the oceans and forests. Humanity had survived, fought, and won. They had turned fear into courage, oppression into resistance, and threat into victory. The world was united, stronger than ever before. Scientists continued to study the alien technology. Soldiers trained for any future threat. Families rebuilt their lives with pride and hope. Earth had faced the impossible and emerged triumphant. Humanity had proven its truth to the stars. The conquerors had fallen, and the defenders had risen. No force in the galaxy would underestimate Earth again. Humans were not just survivors. They were a force of nature, unstoppable when united, clever, and determined to protect their home. The Vorikai were gone. Earth remained, alive and undefeated. Humanity had won, and the galaxy would remember it forever.